Have you ever left a familiar room with a tightness in your chest, replaying a conversation because the warmth was missing, even though every word sounded normal? You sensed the pause, the flat reply, the support that arrived just late enough to feel deliberate. Here's what nobody tells you. Betrayal rarely begins with an open attack. It begins as a pattern of small withdrawals that your loyalty keeps explaining away. It isn't one cold moment. It's the repeated gap between what someone says and what their behavior quietly reveals. Machiavelli recognized that human intentions are often hidden behind appearances, and the careful observation exposes what promises conceal. That principle protects you here. You are not searching for enemies. You are learning to notice when closeness has become a mask. You will see 7 quiet signals, from cooling enthusiasm and selective silence to praise that diminishes you and help that appears only after the danger has passed. By the end, you will know how to separate an accidental lapse from a repeated pattern, trust behavior without becoming bitter, and create distance before the wound deepens. Before you go further, write this in the comments. I notice the quiet shifts. This is not an accusation against everyone around you. It is a reminder to yourself that awareness can protect your peace without turning your heart suspicious. That distinction becomes the foundation for everything that follows. A single awkward exchange can come from fatigue, stress, or an unspoken problem of their own. But when the same kind of distance keeps appearing, when the explanation changes while the behavior remains, you are no longer dealing with an isolated moment. You are seeing a language. Number 1. Their enthusiasm cools when something good happens to you. A person who cares about your progress does not need to perform constant excitement, but genuine goodwill usually has a natural warmth. It asks questions, it remembers details, it gives your good news room to exist. Quiet opposition often appears when your success changes the balance between you. Your achievement may remind them of what they have postponed, lost, or secretly wanted for themselves. That is why the reaction can look polite rather than hostile. The congratulations arrive, but without curiosity. The smile appears, but disappears quickly. They move to another subject, make a small joke, or mention how fortunate you were. The words sound supportive, yet the energy seems to withdraw from the room. Machiavelli understood that people often reveal their interests more clearly through what they cannot comfortably celebrate than through what they claim to admire. The issue is not whether someone applauds every victory. It is whether your growth consistently makes them less generous. Watch what happens when you share progress that does not benefit them. Do they lean closer, or do they become distracted? Do they ask what the moment means to you, or do they immediately reduce it? And when their own success appears, do they expect your full attention while offering yours only a narrow acknowledgement? The pattern becomes clearer when the news is small enough to remove every excuse. A new habit, a completed task, a decision that makes you steadier, or a quiet improvement in your life can reveal more than a major public achievement. If even ordinary progress is met with discomfort, the issue may not be the event. It may be the version of you that keeps becoming harder to dismiss. It is not a demand for constant praise. It is a test of emotional room. Most people notice the words, but the few learn to notice whether joy is welcomed or quietly punished. If your happiness repeatedly creates tension, stop arguing with the evidence and begin observing the pattern. Number 2, they become selectively silent when your reputation, plans, or position needs support. Silence is not always neutrality. Sometimes it is restraint, wisdom, or a decision not to enter a pointless conflict. But silence becomes meaningful when it appears only in moments where speaking would protect you, clarify the truth, or prevent others from forming a false impression. This happens because support carries a cost. To defend someone may risk social approval, expose a hidden alliance, or require a person to take a position they would rather avoid. Someone who has quietly turned against you may still want the appearance of closeness, but not the responsibility that closeness demands. So they remain present enough to look loyal and absent enough to let damage continue. Machiavelli warned that alliances are measured less by declarations than by what people risk when circumstances become inconvenient. Anyone can stand beside you when the room is safe. The revealing moment is when a small correction would cost them comfort. Pay attention to the conversation after you leave. Notice who corrects a misunderstanding when you are not there. Notice who shares your private information but says nothing when someone misrepresents you. If they speak freely about you in private, why do they become speechless when accuracy matters in public? Look for the difference between inability and unwillingness. A person may miss one moment, lack the facts, or choose a private conversation instead of a public defense. But if they always discover reasons to stay quiet when your name is at risk, while finding plenty of courage when discussing you elsewhere, the pattern has a direction. Their silence is not empty. It is placed. It is not about expecting someone to fight every battle. It is about recognizing selective silence. They do not lack a voice. They are choosing where to use it. The support you can count on is not the loudest support, but the support that appears before the damage has become irreversible. Number 3. Their help arrives a beat too late. Delayed support can be innocent. People miss messages, misunderstand urgency, or become overwhelmed. The signal appears when the delay becomes consistent, especially when the person knew what was needed and had the ability to act. Their assistance arrives after the decision has been made, after the opportunity has closed, or after someone else has carried the difficult part. One of the quiet ways opposition works is through controlled lateness. Nothing dramatic happens, no obvious refusal can be confronted, yet the timing keeps placing you at a disadvantage while allowing the other person to claim they tried to help. They preserve their image and leave you with the consequences. The old strategist would have looked beyond the promise and studied the hour of delivery. Timing exposes intention because a useful action at the wrong moment may serve as a disguised obstruction. A door opened after you have already walked away is not the same as a door opened when you needed to enter. Watch the sequence, not just the gesture. Did they answer after the meeting ended? Did they send the information after the deadline? Did they offer advice only after the mistake became public? And when you point out the timing, do they focus on their effort instead of the result? Ask what would have happened if nobody else had stepped in. Would the help have arrived in time? Would the problem have remained hidden? Would they still call the outcome a misunderstanding if the cost had been greater? These questions do not require a confrontation. They help separate an imperfect person from a dependable one. It is not help if its timing repeatedly protects their reputation while leaving you exposed. It is assistance shaped like innocence. Most people feel grateful for the gesture and forget the missed moment. The few compare the promise, the opportunity, and the delivery. You do not need to accuse them. Adjust your dependence. Give important responsibilities to people whose reliability exists before the crisis, not to those who appear once the crisis has made their kindness safe. Number 4. Their praise contains a small reduction. This sign is easy to dismiss because it often wears the voice of affection. You did well, considering the circumstances. That was impressive for someone new. You finally got it right. The sentence begins with approval and ends by shrinking what was approved. The compliment gives you a flower with a thorn hidden in the stem. The mechanism is simple. Direct hostility threatens the relationship, but diminished praise protects the speaker from looking hostile. By attaching a qualification to your achievement, they keep your confidence slightly below its natural height. You are allowed to feel recognized, but not fully secure. Machiavelli's view of appearances helps here. A person does not need to openly challenge your standing if they can quietly influence how you measure yourself. Repeated small reductions can make you seek their approval, explain your choices, or work harder to earn a respect they have no intention of granting. Listen for the part of the sentence that remains after the praise. What did they need to add? Would the compliment have stood without the comparison, the joke, or the reminder of your past failure? When everyone else hears the words as praise but you feel a familiar contraction, do not dismiss that response before examining the pattern. The test is repetition and direction. A clumsy comment followed by genuine correction is different from a steady habit of lowering the ceiling after every success. Notice whether the reduction appears in front of others, whether it becomes sharper when you receive recognition, and whether they call your reaction oversensitivity after deliberately provoking it. The words are only the surface. The consistent attempt to resize you is the mechanism. It is not sensitivity to notice contempt wrapped in approval. It is discernment. Genuine praise can be specific without being diminishing. It can tell the truth without making your achievement smaller. You stop defending the accomplishment. You stop asking the person to agree with its value. You stop handing them the authority to measure what you have earned. Their qualification may reveal their attitude, but it does not define your result. Number 5. They collect your vulnerabilities and return them as evidence against you. Closeness creates access. You share a fear, an uncertainty, a private mistake, or a hope that still feels fragile. A trustworthy person treats that information as something to protect. A quietly opposed person stores it. Later, the same detail reappears as a joke, a warning to someone else, or a reason why you should not be trusted with a larger opportunity. The mind often confuses disclosure with loyalty. When someone listens to your weakness, it can feel like intimacy, but listening is not the same as safeguarding. Some people gather private knowledge because it gives them leverage, not because they feel connected to you. Machiavelli repeatedly returned to the danger of giving others unnecessary weapons. That does not mean living behind a wall or treating every relationship as a battlefield. It means understanding that information changes power. What you reveal should be matched to the character of the person receiving it. Watch how they handle information that belongs to someone else. Do they repeat private stories while insisting they would never expose yours? Do they bring up your confession during an argument? Do they frame your honest uncertainty as proof of permanent weakness? Ask yourself, did the atmosphere change after you became vulnerable? Did their questions become more invasive while their own disclosures remained carefully controlled? When your private words are used to explain you, limit you, or embarrass you, the relationship is no longer offering safety. Do not confuse their memory for care. A person may remember every detail because they respect your experience or because they are cataloging pressure points. The difference appears when the information is inconvenient. Is it held with discretion or released when an audience is present? Is your vulnerability met with protection or converted into a permanent description of who you are? It is not intimacy when one person opens a door and the other quietly marks the lock. Protecting yourself does not require bitterness. Share more slowly, observe more carefully, and let trust be built by repeated discretion rather than emotional familiarity. Number 6. They create confusion around your place in the relationship. This is the pattern of mixed signals: closeness when they need access, distance when you need certainty, warmth in private, and subtle exclusion in public. They may call you important while leaving you out of decisions that affect you. They may insist that nothing has changed while treating you as though you have become an inconvenience. The mechanism is uncertainty. When a person cannot tell where they stand, they spend more energy interpreting the relationship and less energy judging it. Confusion can keep you available. You keep waiting for the old warmth to return, explaining each contradiction and adjusting yourself to recover a position that the other person has already withdrawn. A careful ruler in Machiavelli's sense would not judge an alliance by ceremonial words. He would study access, consistency, and consequence. Who is included when decisions are made? Who is informed only after the fact? Who receives patience and who receives explanations? Pay attention to the difference between what they call you and how they place you. If they use the language of closeness but the behavior of convenience, believe the behavior. If every attempt to seek clarity produces another fog of excuses, notice that the confusion may be serving someone. The application is simple but uncomfortable. Stop trying to restore certainty through increased availability. Do not send another explanation merely to make their treatment easier to understand. Do not accept a private reassurance as proof when the public pattern continues. Clarity is not something you beg another person to pronounce. It is something you measure in repeated conduct. Why should one conversation determine everything? It should not, but why should 10 repeated contradictions be ignored because of one reassuring sentence? They should not. It is not your job to solve a mystery someone keeps creating. You can ask a direct question once, perhaps twice, then watch whether the answer produces clarity in conduct. The few do not chase a title inside someone else's life. They observe the position they are actually given and make decisions from there. Number 7. They become unreadable only when you need the truth, while remaining highly observant of you. This is the deepest sign, because it exposes a shift in the balance of attention. They notice your moods, your plans, your relationships, and your weaknesses, yet reveal almost nothing about their own intentions. They ask where you are going while keeping their destination hidden. They study your reactions while giving you no stable behavior to study in return. Privacy is healthy. Everyone is entitled to boundaries. The concern is not that someone has an inner life. The concern is that they use opacity as protection while treating your openness as access. They want to know enough to anticipate you, but not enough to be accountable to you. The mechanism is control through asymmetry. When one person knows much more than the other, the informed person can prepare while the exposed person is forced to react. This may be deliberate, or it may simply be a defensive habit formed from insecurity. Either way, the effect on you is the same. You are asked to trust what you cannot verify. Machiavelli's lesson here is not to become deceptive. It is to stop confusing mystery with depth. Someone can be quiet and honorable, or quiet and calculating. The distinction appears in whether their boundaries are mutual, whether their actions remain consistent, and whether clarity arrives when the relationship requires it. Watch how they respond to reasonable questions. Do they answer directly, or do they make you feel intrusive for asking? Do they demand transparency from you while calling their own secrecy independence? When they make a decision that affects you, do they explain it before the consequences arrive, or only after you discover them? Compare the standards without rushing to judgment. They may have a legitimate boundary, but can they state it plainly? They may not owe every detail, but can they acknowledge the effect of their decision? The issue is not complete access. It is whether the relationship allows enough mutual clarity for trust to remain rational. It is not wisdom to remain permanently unreadable. It is wisdom to become difficult to move through guilt, urgency, or confusion. You do not need to display every thought. You do not need to announce every plan. You can let your conduct speak while your private judgment remains your own. This is where awareness becomes identity. You stop performing trust for people who have not earned it. You stop offering immediate access to prove that you are loyal. You stop reacting to every shift in tone because your center no longer depends on their approval. The mind no one can easily move is not a mind that suspects everyone. It is a mind that notices, verifies, and chooses without panic. That is the difference between being closed and being sovereign over your attention. Remember what you saw today. Cooling enthusiasm can reveal hidden resentment. Selective silence can show where loyalty disappears. Help that arrives late can expose obstruction disguised as effort. Diminishing praise can reduce your confidence while pretending to celebrate you. Collected vulnerabilities can become weapons in the hands of someone who values leverage over trust. Confusion can keep you attached to a closeness that no longer exists, and unequal secrecy can reveal a relationship built on access rather than mutual respect. The goal is not to become cold or suspicious, it is to become clear. This is about recognizing resentment, avoidance, delayed obstruction, covert diminishment, weaponized vulnerability, manufactured uncertainty, and one-sided opacity when they are used against you, not using them on anyone. You do not need a dramatic confession to protect yourself. You need repeated evidence, calm boundaries, and the courage to let behavior outweigh promises. You can remain kind without remaining available to every person who knows how to sound familiar. Remember the words you wrote at the beginning. I notice the quiet shifts. Let that sentence remind you that awareness is not betrayal of your kindness. It is the discipline that keeps kindness from becoming self-abandonment. And while you are writing it, the pinned comment holds virtupo, the Machiavelli doctrine, a complete system for forging a mind no one can easily read or move, while seeing more clearly the people allowed near your life. It is built for the iron of your own mind and the crown of judgment you place around your circle. If this sharpens something in you, subscribe for the next lesson. A quiet mind sees the crack before the wall comes down.